Yeah. Yeah, no, last time I went live, I had to do it a couple times because the mic was muted. So, hey. All right. Live right now. Hey, cousin. Yeah, so we on here, 12:30 Thursday, May the 14th. We are live waiting for a couple more people to come in and show up. It is broadcast on YouTube and Instagram. So yeah, I want to make sure all the technicalities are set as I'm got all these little devices um going. Last time I went live, I had to do it a couple of times because I didn't have the microphone on and went through all of the thing and was like, ah, shoot, it was on in one spot and not on in the other. And so I want to make sure I have all of those things situated and set. It is 12:30. And I know some people are just finishing up their lunch or getting through with their lunch. And so I am going to give it just a moment. But I do want to say welcome. Yeah, Thursday. If you're in the South, it is a beautiful day outside. If you're not, and you're somewhere where it's not as nice, I'm sorry. If you're listening to the replay at a time it's nice, then that's great too. Get your water, finish your lunch, eat your lunch. This is just a moment to just kind of press in and pause as throughout the midday. And I'll talk a little bit more about what mindful moments are and why that came about. But I want to say, hey, and welcome this week's mindful moment. If you don't know me, I'm Tawana Wiggins, and I am just really grateful to be here. And when I say this week's mindful moment, I mean the structure of this week's mindful moment because I've been doing mindful moments for quite some time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. First of all, these aren't my favorite glasses. They be pressing on my eyelashes and stuff. But let me see. So I'll introduce a little bit more about me if you don't know me with regards to what I do and all of those things. I help women just to find their rhythm that really honors their peace, their priorities, and the people that they care for. And if you see my eyes wandering, it's because I am on two different platforms and I do have my notes here because that's what my mindful moments are. And so you'll see me kind of just referring back to the notes because I don't want to miss anything. But like I said, I help women just find their rhythm that honors their peace, their priorities, and the people that they care for without just burning out in the process. And that initially for my business TL Collaborative, which the initials stand for my first and middle name. And so it is a legacy brand. My daughter also has those initials as well, and so the hopes is that this carries over to her, and because it's just a practice that I practice for my life. And so, um, what was I saying? Okay, so initially this started out, and I thought it was to start out as um, an organization that helps moms of ADHD children. And as I was moving in that direction and I was doing the things and all of the things and really trying to understand that way, because I do raise my daughter who lives with ADHD, and then also my other children are neurodivergent, which I didn't find out until they were well into their adult years. And I realized that God showed me I'm much more than that. And he used that to help me to see what he has called me to as a teacher. He has called me what he has called me to be as a teacher. So I did um, teach for a long time and I was in education for 20 plus years. But in all of that, in raising my children, in parenting a child that has ADHD, in teaching and leadership and all those things, um, how I was able to sustain is how I honor my peace and my priorities and the people that I care for. That wasn't always the case. It was really, 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 really refined in truly refined in the fire. Like you know the song by Chandler Moore, and CC Winans has a version, The Refiner, Like it was truly refined through the fire in parenting my daughter with ADHD. And I could certainly share tips about how that looks with regards to honoring your space and parenting in that space that is specific to your child and all of that, because I do that. But that is all a part of what comes with what God has called me to be. He told me early on that I was a teacher, and I fell into teaching anyway, and absolutely adored it and loved it and still do. And that's what I get to do now. And so if you are here and you do not know me, then I'll just give you a little bit more explanation of who I am. And so I have three children, and I am also a grandmother. So you will see my lovely cup here, says abuela, and two grandchildren. And I know I don't look like it, but some good genes there, thanks to my mom and my dad. But so my two oldest children are adults, they're grown-ups, and I say that they made me mom. And then my youngest one is 10, and she shows me Tawana every single day. And it is through all of that, the refiner, where I've been refined through the fire and tried by fire, purified, all of those things. And I've been in education. Thank you. Thank you so much, May. No, I don't look like a grandma on Abuela, but thank you. I've been in education for 20 years, 20 plus years, and I've done everything from substitute teaching to counselor to teacher to assistant principal, principal. And when I left the actual physical space of education, I left as leading operations as the COO, Chief Operating Officer of a school. And I'll get more into that in a minute. But now, like I mentioned, I'm the founder of CEO and the CEO of TL Collaborative, where I coach and consult women and organizations, really guiding them to do what I do for me daily, which is finding my rhythm that honors my peace. So I help them to honor their peace, their priorities, and the people that they care for without burning out in the process. And what that looks like is you've been in situations where, and although I help women in organizations, dads and men, if you're on here, I see my cousin's was on here, and he may still be on. These same practices can help you too, but I speak specifically, and I say to women because that's the experience that I have. Now I can definitely speak to men and find out more about your experience and help you walk through that process, but I can speak from this experience that I have as a woman leader, as a mom. And I want to really stamp here too that when I say women leaders, I also mean moms, because sometimes we forget that that is a leading space as well. And um, so what I was saying was you've been through like situations where you have been working, you have been doing something, and you may have noticed like when another priority, and when I say another priority right now, I mean like your kid is your priority. If you have younger children or something like that, or you're doing something and you've been interrupted, I'm saying quote unquote interrupted, you get frustrated, right? And you're aggravated and you're upset. You're like, oh, I just got to finish this thing. And sometimes if you sit back in that feeling, or you sit back or you reflect on your day and think like, why was I so frustrated at that? Why did I show up like that? Oftentimes what you may find is your priorities were misaligned. It wasn't that you were doing what you weren't supposed to be doing. You may have been doing it at a time that you weren't supposed to be doing it. And so being able to focus on those areas that really honors your peace, it honors your priorities, and it honors the people that you care for. And one of those people is you, right? And so it's not about making you perfect. It's not about eliminating tasks that you know that you have to do. It's not about telling you that you're doing it wrong. It's about caring for you in a way that helps you to show up well in the things that you're called to do, and the things that you're purpose for, and the things that you have to do for your livelihood and take care of yourself. And so before we go on, I just don't want to forget to say that I will be here every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube and on Instagram. So if you're watching now, go ahead and share this out. Text a friend, post it, invite someone, share it out so that other people can enjoy this space. It will be on a replay. It will be posted on my website. It'll be on the YouTube channel and the Instagram, so you can revisit it, watch it for replay, and share it. But please make sure that you do that. And this is not for me to get more likes. This is not for me to get business. This is not for me to get more views, but this is for whatever God has given me to help someone else and teach someone else, this is for them to see that. So it's not about me, but it is about the message that's here. And so you'll see me looking at my notes and looking at the screen and kind of moving over because I did have to organize kind of my thoughts. There was a lot I wanted to share. And so this is not a presentation, it's not a class. This is how I show up for me. This is how I show up for others. Real, reflective, obedient, and I write down what God gives me and I share it because I feel like when I was in the teaching space and in the education space, there was always something. I felt like I was successful in that space because I was able to build relationships. And so there, when I was speaking with someone, a student or another staff member or a teacher or whatever, there was always something that God gave me to share with someone else, which is why He called me to be a teacher, even when I taught science for several years. And so that's when I'm operating in my calling and in my capacity in my space. I take joy in that because it feels natural. And so, again, it's not about likes. I'm not trying to teach you anything or give you a presentation. But if you find something here that resonates with you and that helps you, share it, write it down. It may help and share someone else. I would say that oftentimes your obedience is confirmation for someone else. They may have heard something, thought something, been urged to do something, and then in your obedience, that gives them confirmation of what they heard and what they were pushed to do. So, before I even begin even further, I do want to kind of just read the creed that I wrote for myself because it helps me to remember who I am and why I'm here. And I don't know, I just felt like I'm pushed to share this. And so I have it written down on my screen, but I don't know if it is helpful to share it with somebody else who's listening. Some of the things that I write and kind of say to myself daily or have it mentally meditating in my mind as I'm moving in the space that God has called me to move in. And so um, I'll read it here. But I do not hustle for impact. I align with assignment. And I do not perform to be seen. I show up rooted, real, and ready. I do not chase visibility. I protect my peace, my priorities, and the people I'm called to serve. My calling is not a role I play, it's a rhythm that I honor. I lead with wholeness, not burnout. I parent my presence, not from presence, excuse me, not pressure. I serve from overflow, not obligation. If God gave me the vision, He will also give me the rhythm to carry it. So I move at the pace of grace. I surrender urgency. I release comparison, and I trust that obedience is enough. My voice is not just a tool, it's my testimony. When I speak from lived wisdom, not performance. When I show up, I bring my full self, not just my skills. And when I rest, I do so without guilt because rest is part of the assignment. I'm not here to fix broken systems. I'm here to restore broken rhythms. Because when women are whole, their homes are held. And when leaders are anchored, the people they care for feel safe. So today, I do not have to do it all. I just have to do what's aligned. I'm not behind, I am becoming. That's a rhythm that I had to teach myself so that I can show up in surrender and wholeness and in obedience. My word for the year, every year our church we pick a word for ourselves, and my word, if you see it back there, is obedience for this year. So that's the word that God gave me, and that's the space that and the rhythm that I want to operate in. And again, my obedience may be confirmation for what someone else may be called to do, or what they may be called to surrender or say or show up or whatever that is. And so I kind of want to share a little bit about mindful moments. If you are a good friend of mine and you're on here, um, if you follow me on social media, you would have seen that I posted mindful moments often, and there was no rhythm or cadence to it, excuse me. Like I would post them early in the morning, a long time ago when I first started. And I say a long time ago, it's like 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. I would post them early in the morning. And sometimes they would be posting without my visual, my face or anything like that. It may be words over a screen or just a reflection that I had. And but I started this actually almost 2 years ago in my last months of being in a school system. And it started because I was in a time and a space in my life where there was a lot of chaos, there was a lot of trauma, there was a lot of drama, and the noise on the outside was so loud. And I was just like, God, I need to hear you. Like, I got to hear you over all of this chaos, all of this nonsense. I need to feel you. I need to hear you. I need your voice to be so clear, like a child hearing their mother in a crowded space. If you're a mom on here, put something in the chat if you know what I mean. Like, you could literally be somewhere and your child, you would say your child's name and they would look because they automatically recognize your voice. Or you could be somewhere and your child says mom, and there's a million kids, but you recognize your child's voice when they say mom. And I was in a space where I needed to hear God's voice just like that. And so I started doing these things that I called mindful moments. And those mindful moments were, thank you. Thank you for affirming that, cutting up with the Crawfords. Dari, thank you, Dari. And so I started these mindful moments where it was, I would do them. I would program my Alexa. Hopefully she's not listening because then she'll start talking. But I would program her every 55 minutes to remind me to do a mindful moment. And a mindful moment was just 5 minutes. And it was a moment where I could get in the space and the face of God, like drown out all the noise. I would stop. I would take a pause to get in that space and that face. And that space could have been just a worship song. That space could have been a prayer. That space could have been reading a scripture, a praying over my life. It could have been, I have, you know how you have the U version Bible app on your phone, and you do them, but then sometimes you see ones that you really, really like, and you're like, I'm going to do those later, so I'll just save it and save it. Well, I had a bunch saved, and so now I was able to do a bunch in a day because I was like, every 55 minutes, I'll just do one devotional from one of those saved U versions, and it became a rhythm for me. And the revelations that I would get in those moments, I would share with what we call e-groups from my church, which is like a Bible study group, a ladies Bible study group. And if I have any of those members on here watching, shout out to y'all. And so you guys were the first to experience mindful moments because I was sharing those with them when I got those revelations, and it just became a cadence for me. And then it didn't have to happen every 55 minutes because it was just something that I was reflective in. And I was already getting up with God early in the morning and spending time there, but I needed more, right? And so those morning times became deeper and mindful moments. So I would share. And so when I would share them in the morning, I tried to like kind of like mesh this into the business. Like, okay, this has to be something for the business. This has to fit. It has to be something. And then I was like, but when I get up early in the morning, like 4:30 in the morning, and I may want to post something at 6, I am not in my posting attire, right? I'm like, I'm in my bonnet or my headscarf or my hair is on top of my head. I don't have no eyelashes on, definitely don't have any makeup on, and I might be in my house robe, right? And so I'm like, I can't be getting on nobody's social media posting that like that. So that's why they would first happen with no cover. And then you may have seen where I would like, I remember talking to a friend and she was like, just kind of get a little bit ready and just do it. Like just do it. That was the advice. Just do it. Like just do it. Because I felt God was like pushing it out there. And I would try to like, well, let me wait, let me fix it, let me fix the message, let me get it together. And then it became like a presentation. I was like, that's not what it is, because it wasn't a presentation when it was given to you. It was a revelation. And so I was like, okay, I'll just get on and I'll just be a little bit presentable. I may still have my robe on. And the thought behind that was have your robe on and do it because then it shows true authenticity and transparency. And still, it was like, I did it though. I did it. So if you looked at my social media, you will see a couple where I do have my robe on. I am dressed, let me say that. And I have my coffee and I'm just kind of giving it to you when I got it. And then I try to build it into a cadence, like Monday mindful moments, or put it here or put it there. And so as I was just building out my business, which is also the calling that God called me to, I was trying to structure that, if you will, into something and trying to build from there. And so I was trying to do master classes, and that flopped and that failed and that was horrible. And I was really stressed out behind it. Like, I'm giving this my doing all the things, and it wasn't. And then just recently I felt God's spirit speak and guide me and say, like, you are trying to create a class and teach something that can't be taught. These are messages that need to be shared. It's not a teaching that you need to charge people for. It's something that I've placed on your heart, which I've been doing for you for a very long time, and you're not charging for these. I know you have a need. I know your need before your need was needing, and I just need you to do the thing. And so I scratched the master classes just recently. Like when I say scratch, like I'm today years old scratching them from the record. And it's like, oh, that's what these mindful moments are for. So I said, I need to create a cadence for this whereby I'm here, and I'm already doing the thing, but showing up and being able to do that on Thursdays at 12:30. And it gives me time also because I'm doing this daily. Like my mindful moments are happening daily, but it gives me time to kind of sit in that word and meditate in that word and meditate on what God has given me for that. And so as I was kind of preparing, not to put it on here like this, but I was just preparing in my regular mindful moment. um the thing that I was kind of just preparing, I was going to be posting it just like a regular post like I was doing already. After God kept speaking to me about what this needed to look like, the topic just like naturally flowed into it based on everything that I just said. It just really naturally flowed. And so what we're talking about today is like, are these really roadblocks? And as I was studying, the things that I started asking myself in one of my studies, that revelation that I got was, um, what have I identified or saw as roadblocks stopping me or delaying me that are actually challenges to overcome and strengthen my faith to handle the blessing that's on the way? And as I was reading and studying, I was like, I was so pulled into that, like that question came to my mind, and I just started thinking like, oh my God, like I need to start investigating this because I feel like God is speaking to me through this. And I started asking like, what have I mislabeled as divine training, mislabeled divine training as like demonic warfare? What is God using to train me that I'm looking at like this is the enemy attacking? Have I been waiting for a removal of something that God is meaning to strengthen me? And as I just started kind of like thinking in that thought, um, I thought about like I was reading what was I reading? I was reading Judges, but excuse me, I was also reading another scripture where they were rebuilding the tabernacle. Haggai. I've been studying Haggai. Now, who reads that, right? It's only 2 chapters, but there's more on that. You can look on social media for that. But I was reading and it was like building a mountain, and it was like, there were obstacles and things like that. So that also was impressed on me. And I was like, the mountain is the obstacle really a roadblock, or is it an invitation? And so as I was thinking about that, I started thinking about my daughter, right? My 10-year-old. And if you're on here, like Daria, you're on here and you know her since before she was born, right? And I just remember her, Tyla, when she was a toddler age, like almost before she was even able to walk, she was like overcoming obstacles. She was such an overcomer. And even thinking about that, I started thinking about her childhood and her being an overcomer. I wanted to make sure that I reminded her. And so this is a key nugget. Like if you think back to your children, or you think back to your leadership, or you think back to your parenting and things like that, like um a moment in time where they were just operating in their natural before the world took hold, before they experienced the world. Think back to some of the things that they were empowered to do, some things that they were great to do, and kind of reflect on that, because I started thinking like, I want to remind her and speak life into her, like making sure her fire didn't fizz. And in the areas where they fizz, did I contribute to that? And what were the things that may have made her fire fizz? Because she is an overcomer. Like I want to make sure that I help to reignite those overcomings. And when she's experiencing the world and the world is trying to shut down her fire, I want to make sure I reignite and remind her how much of an overcomer she was when she was younger. And so there was not a roadblock that stopped this child, right? Um, like things that I had up to stop her, like there's supposed to be roadblocks. They're supposed to stop her. She had begun climbing before she could walk. I would set up these boxes and these barriers in the living room to keep her contained, right? In a space so that she couldn't get to the kitchen or get there, and she can stay where I am so I can do the things I need to do and I don't have to go grabbing for or whatever. She would climb over these boxes. I remember one time she climbed over the edge of the couch and she shimmied down. I was like, while she was going over, I was like, get down. And she just looked at me and then she shimmied on down. Like, oh my God, this kid. She would climb up on a chair and climb over the chair. And it was just like there was nothing that was able to stop her. And I remember even her crib, she was started getting out the crib earlier when she started, excuse me, walking. She was getting out the crib earlier and she would put her in there. Next thing I know, she would show up in my room. And I remember my mom was like, raise the bar, like literally raise the bar higher. And finally, I was just like, no, I am not trying to raise a Olympic gymnast at this age right now. Like she's only gonna get stronger and stronger by doing by me doing all of these things. And so I'm just about to give in. Like I am just going to make our life a lot easier. And so I just turned her, she got a toddler bed way earlier than the law probably would allow or that the books say to do it, because I just want to save us both the frustration. And so instead of setting up the roadblock around that, I just took the bars down, gave her a toddler bed so that she was going to get out the bed anyway. So I was like, I'm not trying to have her hurt herself or get any stronger than she already is, because she was literally running through these obstacles like we were watching, we were participants in like Double Dare, and Mark Summers was over there just egging us on for all my Gen X's who used to watch Nickelodeon's Double Dare. And so that's why I was like, well, what if these mountains are not what I think they are? What if they're not roadblocks, but they're obstacles um, of invitation to make me stronger, to build me stronger. And so I started reading Judges 6 and where was I? Oh, Judges 6. First of all, let me know here, is this resonating with anybody? Like, do you see yourself in any of this so far? Just let me know that this is helping. But I started reading while you're doing that, I started reading Judges 6, chapter 11 through 32. And I am not going to hold you here and read all of that to you, but I will just give you my reflection for it, because this is how I press into my mindful moment. And so you can read that on your own, but I will give you just a little synopsis and a little bit of nuggets of what I got out of it. And so if you don't know Judges chapter 6, it starts off by kind of talking about the situation and scenario that the Israelites were in. And they were really, they were hiding and they were trying to live life and survive um, around the Midianites. And the Midianites were actually relatives, distant relatives of the Israelites, but they weren't the called individuals or children of Abraham. And so they were like the big bad bullies, really. Like they were the stepchildren. And so step like that, like when someone is treated like a stepchild. And so they were mean and they did all the things, and the Israelites were literally hiding for survival, doing the things that they need to do for survival, and hiding because the Midianites would actually lead them into starvation. They would steal their food, all of the things. And so when I got to Judges 6, 11, this is the part, and if you don't know this story, if you know the story, then this is great. But this is the part where um, God speaks to an angel of the Lord comes to Gideon. He tells him, and Gideon is like is hiding. Well, really, like he's trying to get the food, and he's hiding in a wine press, so that the Midianites don't see the remnants of what him trying to do the thing he has to do, hide the grain from them because it will fly in the air and all that stuff. And so he's like literally hiding, and angel of the Lord comes to him, and he is talking to Gideon about him being strong and courageous. And what stood out to me here, what stood out to me here is God allowed the Midianites, and this is the part that it's hard to digest at first until you know the whole story. But God allowed the Midianites cruelty and oppression um, for the Israelites, and that there's another story behind that. That's because they were disobedient and they were worshiping idols and all the things. And God made a decree in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, in the beginning portions. God made a decree saying that if these things happen, then these things will happen. And so they were reaping what they sowed, basically. And so God allowed that cruelty and that oppression, but now God was empowering Gideon to defeat. And so it was almost like, when I started writing this down, where I was reflecting, was almost like a setup, but not a manipulative setup. It was like a setup. He's got set up the fight so he could put Gideon in place to win, and almost like God set this all up for this moment in time. And um, God didn't send Gideon after the victory was assured. He called him while the cruelty and the oppression was happening. And so the wow factor for me here is that Gideon does not just learn who God is; he learns who he is in God. And when you read the story, God tells him to, that he's strong and that he's courageous. And this is the moment that I look at that says this was a setup, again, not for manipulation, but it allowed like a sovereign arrangement where God had all this all together for a sovereign arrangement. And so in this moment, as I started reflecting, I'm like, God used this to expose Israel's need. Like they needed to be saved from this. And then he reawakened Gideon identity, because Gideon was like, I'm weak, my people weak, the people where I come from, we weak. We don't, I don't, you got the wrong person. I'm sure of it. And and then it also revealed God's presence in the unlikely, most unqualified vessel. And I reflect on that too, because I just did a post um about motherhood, like of all of the accolades and the awards and achievements and the schooling that I've had, um, those things were awarded, those things were promoted, those things were identified and recognized and given because of my work. But being a mom, baby, I no, like I am not qualified for this, but God called me. That was the one thing that God called me and purposed me to be and to do. There was no work that I could have done in that. And so shout out to the moms who are on here. Happy belated Mother's Day. God called you to that job. And so that makes me go to, like, God doesn't need you to qualify, because Gideon's like, I mean, like, really, like, I don't think this is for me. And I'm thinking, even in my calling, when I was like, even recognizing that I was a mom of a child living with ADHD, I was like, no, like, I can't talk to people about this. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm still learning it. I don't even know it. And then I find out later on that my son at the age of 23 is diagnosed with ADHD, and he's 25 now. And I was like, and God was like, you don't know it? Like, you raised this child. And he was elite. Like, he took AIG classes and all of the things, and a genius. And I was like, and he was like, you don't know. And you've been teaching for all of these years. You don't think you've came across some children who are neurodivergent or live with ADHD, and you've been successful in doing that? So are you telling me that you don't want to, or you can't? Because the study shows, your receipts show that you can. And I was just nervous and I was scared and I was like, all of the things. But then even getting out here and using my voice, like being a teacher and talking to children is one thing, but talking to adults is another thing. So even leading as a principal and as a COO, that was sometimes difficult, because now you are speaking to people who have lived life and who have experiences, and they're looking at you a certain type of way. And then you have your past trauma and your lived experience, thinking like, are they even benefiting from what I'm saying? So now I'm looking at myself like, getting like, I don't feel like I'm really qualified for this. I don't feel like I have something to say. Who's going to be listening? Like, I don't have anything to give. I mean, this, like, really, all of the things that, as I'm going through this, I'm realizing that you first just have to show up. So whatever it is that God is calling you to, you first just have to show up. That holy courage is what it takes for you to step forward while you're still feeling unqualified. God didn't say, once you feel away, then you do a thing. God said, just do it. So like he told Gideon, like, go in the strength you have. And so there comes a time where God does not explain why he chose you. He just says, go, and go in the strength that you have, even if it feels like not enough. Even if your resume does not match the assignment that he gave you, you just go. And so as I'm reading further in Gideon, I'm sorry, not Gideon, in Judges, moving further on, there is a part. Thank you, Diary. Just catch the replay. Love you, love you, love you, love you. As I'm reading further in Judges, what was I saying? Oh, let me look at my notes here. Judge verses 17, I will read this because this is what pulled out something for me. It says Gideon wanted to be sure, and in verse 18 the angel of the Lord was patient and said, I'll wait. um and so I was like, let's back this up for a moment. Like, Gideon was hiding in verse 11, and he was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress. He was hiding the grain from the Midianites, because remember, if you go back in Judges 6:6, you'll see that the Israelites were reducing them to starvation. And so Gideon was hiding the thing that he needed to do from those that were oppressing him. And so, just thinking about just how big and how bad they were, and how the world has been for Gideon, that he started to hide his gift, or hide what he, not his gift, but hide what he needed. And that made him feel less than, like, I can't do this. And so he was doing the thing that he needed to do, but it wasn't the thing that God was calling him to do, that God was preparing him to do, that God was placing him to do. And so then a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, am I doing all of this preparing because I'm afraid? Like, I'm preparing for a masterclass that I am not called to give. This is why it's failing. I'm preparing this website to have outlined all of these things. I'm preparing social media posts. I'm doing content calendars, and I'm doing all of these things that are not resonating with anything, because is it because I'm afraid? Is it am I, and then looking at how it's not working, like, I started to think, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Maybe I'm not. This is not my calling. Like, how is this working? Like, I don't even see it working. I don't see anything coming out of this, and so maybe I'm not supposed to do this. And recognizing, as I'm pressing in further, like, are these roadblocks, or is this an invitation for me to lean more into God? And God was telling is God telling me to go in the strength that I have. And as I just started reading more of Gideon, it was like, before Gideon, when you get to 25, verse 25, before Gideon can defeat the Midianites, God gave him a command. He said, go to your father's house and tear down the idols. Pull down your father's altar of Baal and cut down the, I'm not even going to pretend like I know how to say that, Asherah pole standing beside it. And so, before you go to do the thing that God told you to do, what I felt for me was, tear down before I build up. I needed to tear down all of the things that I was trying to make work. All of the things that I felt like I had to build, and I had to curate, and I had to put together, that I felt like, okay, God gave me this calling, so I need to build these things up. I need to put these things together. I need to make this, because this is going to be the outcome. And I needed to tear that down in obedience, because that is sometimes where you start, with demolishing the thing that was not supposed to be, not constructing, the vision, but destroying the compromise. I was trying to really make this work. And so, before God could elevate Gideon publicly, Gideon had to obey him privately, even if it meant in fear and opposition and in rejection. So, some of the questions I pose to you, that I'm answering myself in this, is, what needs to come down before God builds what's next? Is God calling you to something? Has He impressed something on your heart? But what first needs to come down? Because there's maybe a lot of the world has now, you've experienced it. And so, where have you been afraid of obeying what, because of who's watching? Like I mentioned, I'm like, oh, I don't have nothing to say. People, are they really like, I don't know. Like, God's like, go in the strength you have. Go. If it's, and I would say, even when I started my podcast, like, I do it for the one. Like, it is just for one. Even when I was teaching, like, if I could just reach one, then the work is not in vain. But somewhere along the lines, I'm like, it's just one. Like, it's like it, and then sometimes if the one would just be me. And I'm like, oh, it's just one. Nobody showed up. And that didn't resonate, or that didn't do a thing. And it's like, where Have I been afraid to obey because of who's watching? Do the thing that God's telling you to do. Go in the strength that you have, and God will take care of the rest. What happens? Another question for me is, what happens when courage doesn't roar? It's not loud, it's not big, but it just whispers, like, do it anyway. Do it anyway. And you're pressing, you're like, do it anyway. Obey, obey, obey. And so, as I like, again, I started tearing down the thought of the master class, and I'm like, God, I have a need. Like, this business has to work because I gotta pay bills, right? And so I have a need, and I'm telling God this, like, I the needs have to be fulfilled. And I felt like God's like, I know your need. I knew you needed before the needing started needing. And so, just like he already set up it for Gideon, was like, all of, I know you already had a need before I came to you. I've already set this up. And so I just need you to go in the strength you have. I need you to do the thing I'm telling you to do. And I need you to be human and let me be God. I'm busy out here trying to set the thing up. Okay, God, you told me to do this. Okay, so let me do this because this is going to fulfill the need. This is going to do this. And I'm going to predict and create the outcome, and it's not happening. So now I'm like, oh, this is not working. It's not right. I'm doing something wrong. I got to go back to the drawing board. Like, I'm making sure that I got my post. I'm trying to figure out the algorithm. I'm trying to um create the masterclass. I'm trying to, do research on how much it should cost. And I'm struggling because I'm like, what am I teaching? Like, I taught science for years. I was a school leader. I could teach leadership. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, and so all of the things that are resonating, like, what am I teaching? What am I teaching? How to break down the word of God? Like, what am I teaching here? And it's like, it's not a master class, it's a message. This is why it isn't working. Like, stop trying to be God and create the outcome, and instead be you, be human. And God knows all of the things, he's going to take care of the rest. And so, as I just kind of just begin to close here, first of all, thank you all for spending this time with me today. Just a couple things that I do want to mention. First of all, if this is resonating with you, or if you've heard something or anything, please be sure to share it with somebody else so that they can be blessed as well. You never know what may be in it for them. And again, I do not do this for likes. I don't do it for visibility. I don't do it for comments or anything like that. I feel like when God gives me something, it is not just for me, it is for me to share with someone else. And that is being fruitful and multiply. And you do the same, be fruitful and multiply. And so let me know what stood out to you in the comments. If you're watching this on the replay, please make sure you comment, share. I'm on YouTube, on Instagram, share it on any of the platforms there. But as I'm closing out here, the thing that I want to share today, and another thing that I want to share, I should say, is where did I write it? Oh, here it is. I got a couple of books here. When I'm journaling. Um, uh, So, as I mentioned, I was trying to create to fill a need. I had a need that I needed to be fulfilled, and I'm thinking the business is going to fill that need. Like, a business is supposed to create income, right? And so I'm trying to be God. I'm trying to design the experience that would produce an outcome that fulfills my need. And God is like, why don't you just be you? You trying to create the experience and do all the things, and yet you still not doing the thing I told you to do, or going in the strength. You're like, wait, I'm just trying to get it together. I'm trying to fix it first so that I can do it. And God's like, go on the strength you have. Like, I know what your need is. Just do the thing that I'm telling you to do. Just be you and do what you can. Go in the strength you have. Like, just like he told Gideon, and I will be me, that's God, and take care of you, your need that I too am very aware of. In fact, again, he knew the need before the need was even needed. So, like in the story of Gideon, this was a setup. All of the things that I'm doing and all of the things that you may be doing that you may feel is an obstacle or a roadblock that's stopping you could very well be a setup, and not a manipulation, but a setup for an invitation that allows a sovereign arrangement. um, the masterclass failure that I experienced, several of them, lack of success with doing what I thought God was telling me to do, wasn't a roadblock, but it was a setup. And it was not to stop or block me, but it was an invitation for me to dig in deeper with what God has, opening up to God and being open with God and digging deeper in and asking questions and pressing deeper and getting closer to Him. And one thing that just came up when I said there's a scripture, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's basically says, um, although you may stumble, you will not fail as long as you keep your hand in God's hands. That may be the MSG version of it. But basically what that is saying is God knows you're human. And so he knows that you're not going to get it perfectly right all the time, but that's where his sovereignty comes. He knows that you're not going to hear him very clearly. It's impossible because we're human and he's God. Like we can't even imagine his full character. And so he knows that we're not going to get it all the way right all the time. But as long as we keep our hand in his hand, as long as we keep our ear to his heart, which is why I created these mindful moments, he will be there to guide us along the way and for us to go in the strength we have. He will give us the nuggets. He will give us the tools. We are going to mess up. That's where grace comes, giving ourselves grace. We're going to mess up. And so thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Psalms 37:24. Although you may stumble, you won't fail. Thank you for giving me that in there. For you can look that up as well. And that's where grace comes in. That's where sovereignty comes in. And so don't get stuck in, I'm not doing it right. I'm doing it wrong. Just do it. Like I'm telling you, like I'm living this experience right now. And so just like with the Israelites, he exposed their real need. That's what I'm experiencing. He exposed the real need. It's not the need for finances, but it is and that is a need. That's a real need. But the need is to operate in purpose. And when you're operating in purpose, then you're aligned. And that's my rhythm, being more aligned with God, protecting my peace, honoring, creating a rhythm that honors my peace, that honors my priorities, that helps me to honor those that I'm showing up for and I'm caring for. Just like with Gideon, he exposed that just like the Israelites, he exposed that real need. Just like with Gideon, he reawakened Gideon's identity. Like, let God be God. You be human. But God is telling you or telling me in that moment, like, this is your identity. This is who you are. Go in the strength you have. Like, I'm calling you courageous. I'm calling you strong. You may not feel it, but just go in the strength that you have. And then it then does one last thing. It reveals God's presence. I feel like when my mindful moments for me, it's pressing in, it's leaning in, and so that I can be able to see and have what I like to call a revealization. Revealization. I'm gonna coin that word. That's revealing and a revelation of who God is and of his presence in my life. Although you may stumble, you will not fail. Psalm 37:24. So lean on that, to lean in and do the thing. Go in the strength that you have. Don't think about how you're not doing it right or you won't do it right. Just do it. All right. Whew. That was good for me. I don't know for y'all. This is my third time, maybe even reflecting in it. Drop a comment in the chat if what resonated with you, what key points, what key takeaways that you may have. Be sure to share this again on your social media platforms or text message or whatever. I'm going to be here in obedience every Thursday at 12:30 to share my mindful moment where God is revealizing something to me that I feel that he wants me to share. If ever I need to shift or change a time, I will certainly post it. But for the most part on YouTube at 12:30, YouTube channel is TL Collaborative, Instagram at Dr. T. Wiggins. It will be on here 12:30 every Thursdays. Yes, yes, yes. This is recorded, and the replay will repost on Instagram, and the replay will be on YouTube. And so you can go back and watch it, rewind it, pause it, take notes, share it, whatever it is that you want or feel like you need to do. I want to say this. I want to make sure that I press this. This again, this is not for the likes. This is not for the comments. This is there was something that spoke to me, and so I feel like God is telling me to share with someone else. And so let me know again, your obedience is confirmation for someone else. And so just me being obedient may be confirmation for you, but also your obedience to let me know how this resonated with you is confirmation for me. And so this work isn't about selling you something. And so there's not a punchline after this of like, go get my coaching package or go buy this. No, it's not. This is about just walking with you through something as I'm unpacking it myself. And so again, there's no punchline, there's no sell here. Don't even need to get your credit card out. You don't need to go to nobody's website. Just a couple gentle shares again every Thursday, 12:30. In addition to that, next Wednesday on the 21st, I am doing a keynote speaking for an event titled Beauty Beyond Bruises. I have to slow down when I say that because it is a tongue twister. Beauty Beyond Bruises. And that is next Wednesday, May 21st. If you're watching the replay and this is already passed, I think it will still be reposted on YouTube so that you can watch it. I believe it will be. So it'll, as a matter of fact, it will be forever there. So you can watch the replay. This is not a ticketed event again. So there was no charge for this. You don't have to pay for that either. But this is definitely going to be a powerful space. I'm not the only speaker. There's a lineup of speakers prior to me, and then I'm speaking closer to the end. The event starts at 7. So I'll be speaking closer to about 9:30. And I will share the link I can't share it in the chat for Instagram, but it is on my Instagram bio for you all. Let me see if it posts in the chat here. Yeah, it should. Yep. For YouTube, I'm sharing the link there in YouTube. And so you guys can copy that and paste that there. For Instagram, it is in my bio where you can click on the link Beauty Beyond Bruises and you can click on it early so that you get notified of when the event is starting so that you don't miss it. Again, thank you guys so much for spending some time with me here on this live. I would like to pray us out as this is a mindful moment of spending time with God, honoring your peace, honoring your priorities, as well as the people that you care for, and spending some time and just leaning in to hear what God may have to say to you as He shares something with me. And so I just want to close us out in prayer. Be sure to comment, let me know how and what resonated with you here. Um, God, I thank you for this time that you have given us, God. Thank you for just really speaking to me and through me and impressing on my heart what it is that you wanted me to share, God. Thank you for revealing something to me in this, what it is that you have given me during my mindful moment. Thank you for those that showed up today, God. I pray that something that was said, something that was heard, something that was done resonated in those that were listening, God. Let my obedience be confirmation for someone else, Father God. Thank you for what it is that you're doing, what it is that you are going to be doing for those that are watching the replay, what it is that you have already set up in this sovereign arrangement of things that we are experiencing and going through, God. God, I pray that someone gets a realization through this that helps them to take that next step forward and just go in the courage and the strength that they have, God. Again, I thank you for this time and this opportunity, God. Thank you for choosing me in this space, God. And God, I pray that it is all of you and less of me in these times, God. And I just thank you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I was about to say Friday. It feel like a Friday, but it's not. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the sun if you're somewhere sunny. If you're not, I'm sorry.